Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Transition to Management webinar for Queensland. We really do appreciate that you're giving up your time to attend and be with us tonight. And we're going to provide you with an overview of Queensland's contribution to the National Varroa Mite Management Program. My name's Kathy Knox. I'm one of the Queensland's 6 Varroa Development Officers, or VDOs we like to refer to ourselves as. Tonight you'll be meeting all of the Queensland VDOs and Mr. Rob Stevens, current manager of Biosecurity Queensland's Varroa Mite Innovation and Resilience Initiative. Rob's going to lead us into tonight's presentation. Most of you already know Rob and the wealth of experience and knowledge that Rob brings to the Varroa Mite table. We also have a few of our other staff members online. Hello. And behind the scenes, our team are helping to answer your questions and to make sure that things run smoothly. Our presentation this evening will also begin with our special guest, Jo Martin, State Secretary for Queensland Beekeepers Association, sharing some parting messages with us. And Rob will then cover a program update, looking at the current activities and some of the resources available to Queensland beekeepers. We'll discuss the national training workshops quite a bit, and our VDOs will also introduce themselves and outline all the different types of support that's available through the national program. So before we get started properly, I'd like to just advise you all that the recording is on, that this meeting is being recorded. And I'd like to just draw your attention to a couple of housekeeping items before I hand over to Rob. So to help us make sure that our time together is positive and productive, we just ask that everybody maintains a professional and civil discourse throughout the evening. And our presentation should run for about 40 minutes, which will then be followed by some time for questions and answers. So throughout, while we're speaking and presenting, please feel free to use the chat function, the chat on the side of the screen, and you can ask questions in the chat function, and we're going to be monitoring that, and we'll address those questions as they come in, or at the end if we're seeing some themes there in the chat. So thanks very much. I'd like to now hand over to Rob Stevens.
Thanks, Kathy. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Rob Stevens. I'm the current manager of the Varroa Mite Innovation and Resilience Initiative, or VMIRI as we refer to it, formerly known as the Varroa Mite Prevention and Preparedness Program. I'm also the former manager of the National Varroa Mite Eradication Program, which used to run in Townsville. So we'll go next slide, please, Kathy. So before we get started, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land of which we meet today, and I pay my respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people here today and whose lands we work. Thanks, Cassie. Next slide. So just briefly on the agenda, we've had a bit of a late change. We are going to lead off with outgoing State Secretary, I should say, Jo Martin of the Queensland Beekeeping Association. She's going to briefly give you a bit of an industry perspective. I'm then going to give you a program update on a national level. Then we're going to really hand over to our newly appointed Varroa development officers. So we're going to start with Carla and Gavin, who are going to give you a session on how to stay up to date with all things Varroa. And then we'll throw over to Tonya and Keith. They're going to cover monitoring for you. And we'll round it out with Kathy and Sarah, who are going to go into a bit more detail about our Queensland Varroa development officers and what they can offer, and also the rollout of the national training workshop. So thanks, Kathy. Next slide, please. So without further ado, we might start with Jo Martin. So she's our outgoing State Secretary of the Queensland Beekeeping Association. She's going to give you a bit of a brief perspective from industry and what's ahead for us when Varroa gets here. Thanks, Jo.
Thank you, Rob. Welcome, everyone. It's really great to see a lot of online participants dialing in for this live session. And if you're watching this later on down the track, I thank you for your time in enhancing, your understanding of exactly what's going on here in Queensland. Now, taking the clock back, it has been a long, very, very long 2 years with the eradication program initially, transitioning now into a transition to management program. So a couple of key points and takeaways from the industry body. We are your voice for beekeeping in Queensland. We have the discussions at a very high level strategically with the Queensland government to provide guidance, definitely on practical pathways that are going to support the industry through this next chapter in Australian beekeeping. So probably the first thing I'd like to lead off with is Varroa mite activities are really, really critical at the moment. Please don't leave checking for Varroa until we find the first mite in Queensland. The data at the moment is really not illustrating the actual accuracy in what is going out in the field. So if you are doing your Varroa mite checking, that is your alcohol washes and your drone uncappings. If you're doing a sugar shake, for example, please make sure you report that data to the B123 app. The milestone with that B123 app is that is the data that we can use once we do detect Varroa mite in Queensland to understand what the industry's activity have been in that region. So, please make sure you're enhancing your preparation. Get into the rhythm of checking for Varroa mite now if you haven't already done so. Confidence that Queensland's free from Varroa mite at the moment. Again, it's the instability in the data. At the moment, I think the total numbers for September were a little bit concerning. We got to about 150 reports of beehives being checked across the state, and that's out of a population of 10,000 beekeepers. So it really is the time now to get in and start looking for Varroa mite. We could see this thing pop up in the central coast of Queensland. We could see this thing pop up in the border zones. It really is a bit of an unknown. So unless you are actually out there actively looking, we just don't know where it could pop up. Industry surveillance efforts from recreational beekeepers and commercial beekeepers really need to increase. There is a lot of people, and the narrative seems to be we will start looking for it once it's detected in Queensland. Again, if we're not looking for it, we're never going to find it. So Varroa mite surveillance activities, reporting them through the B123 program. We're working with the Queensland Government Biosecurity Vermery team in particular to really make sure that B123 is that legacy piece that's left behind long after we start to actively manage Varroa mite in Queensland. So, please familiarise yourself with that online tool now. It is a really great asset for you to use in your decision-making exercises as a beekeeper, particularly if you're moving beehives around or just to know who else is out there and looking for Varroa mite through those surveillance maps. Beekeepers, please get out there at a minimum. You need to be testing a couple of times a year at the moment. But the narrative that we're hearing from New South Wales is monitor for mites monthly. If you're not doing this, you could be caught out and caught behind. And the way that you might find out about Varroa mite being in your hives is that you come across a dead hive. The success on the transition to management program is dependent on our beekeepers standing up and getting involved with their beehives. So, make sure that you're out there. At the moment, spring is a fantastic time to be looking out for any signs of endemic pests and disease, the notifiable diseases like your American foul brood. Be on the lookout at the moment for small hive beetles. We've got some wet weather flows coming in as well at the moment, so we'll probably start to see some outbreaks and infestations of small hive beetles start to appear as well. But look, this is my last point, I suppose, in being a part of the program here more broadly and my work with the Queensland Beekeepers Association. And I'd like to leave that on a bittersweet note. It has been an absolute honour to serve the beekeepers of Queensland, all 10,000 of you, for the last 6.5 years, and be your voice to the influencers that make the policies around beekeeping in Queensland. I will continue to be a part of the beekeeping industry, but from a back seat. But I can reassure you that the state election at the moment, I will be making sure that the politicians that we've had discussions with honour their word and keep backing the beekeepers of Queensland, because you are an amazing bunch of individuals that are so spirited. You are so passionate about your honeybees. So let's all embrace this next chapter together and take it on. It's going to be a bumpy ride for probably a couple of years, but you can do it. Rob, that's about it for me. I'll tune back in for the Q&A later on if anyone requires or would like to ask a question. But Rob, on behalf of myself, thank you so much for you and the team and the dedication that you've all put behind the beekeepers of Queensland, particularly during my time in the role. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Joe. I'd really like to acknowledge the enduring contribution Joe has had on bee biosecurity and bee-related emergency response in Queensland. I can safely say that the level of consultation and collaboration with the Queensland bee industry has never been in a better position, and we're in a really good starting point for what's ahead of us. It's really sad to see Joe go, but we thank you for your efforts and everything you do fighting for this Queensland beekeeping industry. And we really thank you for your time you have spent in the role and wish you the best of luck on your next adventure. So thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, team.
So we'll get stuck straight into the rest of the presentation. Like I said, we're going to hand over to the Varroa development officers tonight. So this is where I can introduce them to you formally. So these are our Queensland Varroa development officers. We've got Carla Konofsky up in the Townsville office, Gavin Jowett in the Bundaberg office, Kathy Knox and Keith Barden in the Southeast Queensland region. Sarah Hickman is in our Gaddon office covering Darling Downs, and we've also got Tonya Johnson who's covering the Southeast as well. So these are your Queensland VDOs. You've got a chance to put a face to a name tonight. These guys are here to support you and your industry as part of the National Varroa Mite Management Program. So don't be afraid to reach out to these Varroa development officers in the future. So next slide, please. Excuse me. So just briefly on the current state of play. So everyone should be aware Varroa was first detected in New South Wales in June of 2022 in the Port of Newcastle. We've just reached a really important milestone though. Just last month, it marks the 1-year anniversary of when the National Management Group did determine that Varroa was no longer technically feasible to eradicate. So that brings us to earlier this year. On the 9th of February, the National Management Group endorsed the National Response Plan, and that includes where we are today, the incorporating transition to management. So more recently, most of you should be aware that Varroa was just detected in a jurisdiction outside of New South Wales in August, where it was detected at almond pollination in Victoria. So at that point in time, there were roughly 1,300 reported findings of Varroa in New South Wales. Next slide, please. So make no mistake, Varroa destructor is at Queensland's border. We've had our latest detection in New South Wales occur just west of Byron Bay in the last couple of weeks. That's only 50 k's from the Tweed. So I really encourage people to keep track of where Varroa is in New South Wales on the national program website or through the New South Wales DPI website. You will see these areas we are anticipating are going to start lining up in the very near future. So the map on the right-hand side shows you what we're up against. This is the density of registered biosecurity entities. So every one of those pink dots is a registered Queensland beekeeper. So once Varroa does get up to that border, it will be travelling very fast through the recreational and commercial bee industries. So next slide, please. So to help combat this, Biosecurity Queensland is increasing its surveillance along the border with New South Wales. We're really focusing on these high-risk areas where we see is the Gold Coast region, Stanthorpe, Warwick. We've got our surveillance teams are doing sticky mat and miticide testing of these hives every 6 weeks. We've got 19 hives across 18 locations, and we've just finished our 4th round of negative surveillance. So far, so good. We've got a fairly good degree of confidence that we don't have Varroa in these border areas, but as Joe mentioned, we don't know what we don't know. We need Queensland beekeepers to join the fight. We need you to start monitoring, and we need you to report your results to B123. Next slide, please. So just briefly, a bit more detail on that detection in Victoria. So in August, it was confirmed at an almond orchard in Nangalok, which is near Mildura. At the time, we had 7 beekeepers with about 5,500 hives attending almond pollination in Victoria. Fortunately, we had already future-proofed our regulation that the whole state of Queensland is a Varroa mite biosecurity zone. So in order for those beekeepers to come home, they had to be risk assessed and they had to apply for a biosecurity instrument permit. So our team has been doing surveillance on those hives that have returned from Victoria, and so far they have all come back negative. Next slide, please. So, as I said, the majority of tonight's presentation is going to be based on the National Varroa Mite Management Program and how Queensland is delivering its component of it. So the national program has a 24-month timeframe, and it's overseen by the Consultative Committee on Emergency Plant Pests and the National Management Group. So there's 4 main objectives to the National Management Program. That's the stand down of eradication activities, which is now concluded, slowing the spread of Varroa, building that industry resiliency capacity, and supporting future-ready industries. So with that, I'm going to pass you over to Queensland's Varroa Development Officers, who are going to highlight some of the work that we're doing under the national program. So to begin with, we're going to pass you over to Carla and Gavin, and they're going to take you through how to stay up to date with all things Varroa. Thanks, Carla.
Thanks, Rob. Evening, everybody. I'm Carla, the BDO for North Queensland. I'm based in Townsville, and my area covers from St Lawrence in the south, Weipa in the north, and out to Mount Isa in the west. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about a couple of ways to keep up to date with the Varroa mite situation, the Queensland Bee E-Alert newsletter, and the National Varroa Mite Management Program weekly update. Let's start with the Bee E-Alert newsletter. The Varroa Mite Update for Queensland, or Bee E-Alert newsletter, is a quarterly newsletter sent directly to your inbox. Previously, the newsletter was sent to all registered beekeepers. Now, to receive the newsletter, you must sign up for it. You can use the QR code provided here, or search DAC in the search engine. On the opening page, click on the News and Media. From there, click on the newsletter and then subscribe using the link on the right-hand side of the page. The newsletter provides up-to-date information for all beekeepers, some of which includes the National Varroa Mite Training Workshop, information about Varroa Development Officers and how to get in touch with us. Most of the information in the newsletter is about Varroa, but you can also learn about different resources for beekeepers, such as the mapping tool to identify potential apiary sites. The National Varroa Mite Management Program update comes out every Friday. In the past 4 weeks, it has discussed the new varroa.org.au website, tips on performing a sugar shake, reaching out for the support from the National Resilience Officer, and has supplied links to the Springtime Challenges webinar. This is just a small amount of information that is available through the update. To subscribe to the newsletter, you can use the QR code provided here, or go to the varroa.org.au website. The sign-up link is at the bottom of the first page. Thanks, everyone. And now Gavin will let you know more about the Varroa website.
Thanks, Carla. I'm Gavin. I'm based in Bundaberg, and my area is actually from just south of Gympie through to basically Rocky and slightly above to basically Carla's area, and inland to about Longreach. Now, with the new website, this is a simple yet comprehensive website. What's more, it's really easy to use. And let's have a quick look at this site, and we'll start with the register for training. So let's click on register for training, and you will see all the information comes up. And on the left-hand side, if you scroll down, you'll find the nearest workshop, your nearest workshop, and click on that link to the register. You may need to think of an alternative venue as the seats are selling out fast. Sarah will talk more about the training later. Next, we'll move to About Varroa and Varroa Life Cycle. It'll give you a great foundation on the Varroa mite, and you can even download as a fact sheet and print it. Then, if we click on About Varroa again, and this time Management, now once again, we will see the latest information about integrated pest management for Varroa mites. It also includes a feature so that you can download it and print it. And yeah, so you can print it and you can go down with your bees with a coffee and read it. The next bit I will show you is the monitoring section. Here we have all the information on how to monitor for Varroa. Why monitor, you ask? To know if and when you need to treat for Varroa. It explains in both written and video links the different ways you can use to determine how many mites are in your hive, along with how many hives in your apiary you need to check. Well, do you think this is an information overload? Then help is just a click away. We have a person dedicated, which is Jamie, to support us when we're feeling overwhelmed with so much information. So whether it be a confidential chat, a connection to a health-related service, his job is to help ensure that you have access to the best possible support throughout your Varroa learning journey. So I'll let you explore the rest of the website yourself. But in the meantime, can I also share with you about Colos? Colos is a survey for us which has been done around the world, and we're suggesting there's really great opportunity for us to get in on this as well, simply because a Colos survey gives us a lot of help to help us fight this Varroa mite. Gives us understanding about where the research opportunities should be, what effects it's having for us, and different treatment recommendations as things change. So it'll be worth noting that it is likely to be a short and easy to do once a year survey. Not only that, so on the next slide we see a simple example of a Colos survey that they've used in New Zealand. And we can see here is just great examples of different pieces of information for us to be able to use. But keeping in mind, when we look at this, no individual reporting is actually identified. So I think that's enough of me talking. Tonya, you can share. Can you share with us what we can be doing now?
Thanks, Gav. Hi, everyone. I'm Tonya. I cover from Noosa to Tweed Heads. I'm here to chat to you tonight about monitoring for Varroa mite. Active surveillance for Varroa in your hives is crucial. I cannot emphasise this enough. If you were able to watch the most recent National Varroa Mite webinar, New South Wales Bee Biosecurity Officer Rob Burke mentions that before the response, many beekeepers thought that there was no mites in Australia, so didn't bother looking for them. Varroa turned up in the Sentinel hives at the Port of Newcastle, then further surveillance showed them spread through the Newcastle area. The mite numbers were so high that Varroa could have been found 2 to 3 months prior during Sugar Shake month if people had been monitoring. In Queensland, no one knows where Varroa could turn up or may already be without active surveillance. Due to migratory beekeeping, legal movements, illegal movements, and even the natural spread throughout feral colonies, Varroa could be anywhere. Thanks, Kathy. Did anyone spot the third mite? As you can see from this picture, Varroa are great at hiding. This is why we cannot rely on visual tests. If you see mites on your bees, you already have an infestation. Perform an alcohol wash, a soapy water wash, or a sugar shake for better accuracy in determining presence for Varroa in your hive. Videos demonstrating these washes can be found on varroa.org.nz. AU. Sorry, I'm Kiwi. So this here is an example from a New South Wales case where a VDO performed an alcohol wash on a beekeeper's hive. Around 395 mites fell from the sample of 300 bees. If you have this number of mites in your alcohol wash, you are risking colony death, even after it being treated. Early monitoring would have allowed this beekeeper to treat on time and reduce the risk of colony failure. Monitor for mites monthly. Track for presence now to prevent infestations later, and report the results to B123. Here we have some testimonials from both commercial and recreational New Zealand beekeepers. I'll give you a second to look over them. As you can see, the common denominator here is regular monitoring. To be proactive, not reactive when it comes to Varroa. Thanks everyone. I'll hand to Keith now to talk about B123 and mapping.
Thanks, Tonya. So with Tonya and Kathy, I am one of the VDOs in Southeast Queensland. I'm going to run through B123 with you today, just to give you a bit of an overview of B123. It's Queensland's data collection tool, basically a form that collects Varroa mite surveillance and monitoring data. As we've already heard, we really need to be checking and monitoring our hives for the presence of Varroa mites regularly. As Tonya said, it may pop up anywhere, so we won't know unless we monitor. It's equally important to report the results from these hive checks. So we really need to report this data into a tool that can be used by other beekeepers to help them make decisions. B123 data really only takes a couple of minutes to add to the tool once you've mastered it. It can be done offline afterwards. It doesn't have to be done in the apiary. There's a QR code on the screen here, and there'll be a link added to the chat so that you can bookmark it if you would like to. Next slide. Thanks, Kathy. So the first page of B123 data entry just captures a little bit of data about the monitoring event, the date, what type of beekeeper you are, and the purpose of your surveillance. If you're an unregistered beekeeper, you can still add data to the tool. And you'll see if you select unregistered that there is a link provided to enable you to register. It is free to be a registered beekeeper, and it connects you with services that the government provides and the industry provides to help you. Most regular mite checking activities will fall under hive health check. However, if you catch a swarm, you can tick off feral honeybee colony collection. And remember that if you do catch a feral swarm, make sure you do a mite wash on it, make sure you report the results in B123, and also practice good barrier security around, or barrier protection around your other apiaries, so you don't move the swarm with potentially AFB or EFB or other diseases into that apiary. Okay, slide page 2 of the data entry form captures a little bit more specific data about the monitoring action. Where the apiary is, whether Asian honeybee is present, and we'll get to that in a minute, how many hives are present, how many hives were tested, the method of testing that was used, and whether or not you found any mites during that testing. Asian honeybee data is collected in this tool as well, even though Asian honeybee is only present in the far north Queensland Cairns region. AHB can carry Varroa, both types, and so that data is collected in this tool as well. Seasonally, drone uncapping is particularly good in spring. It's a really useful test for presence of mites, but it's not suitable for determining the mite load in a hive. So if you're just looking for detecting mites, drone uncapping is a very effective way of doing that. But if you do detect mites with drone uncapping, you should then go and do a wash using alcohol or soapy water, and that will allow you to work out the mite load on the hive per 300 bees. If you do answer yes for mites, the process you can see on the screen here, the process is clearly laid out as to what you should do. You should call the number and alert Biosecurity Queensland, and then follow the steps from there. Okay, and page 3 of B123 just collects your data, your name, your email address, your residential address and phone number. This data is used to follow up should there be any need to do so, such as if you have found a mite. It also is used to send you an email which summarises your survey results, your survey data that you entered. Slide, please. So the B123 data, once it's completed, you get a copy, as I said, via email, and that can be kept for your records, proof of testing purposes, for interstate movement applications and permits. It can also be used for pre-sale or change of ownership of the hive. And just at the bottom there, I've listed the privacy information there. We are collecting private data, and it's important that people understand how we use that data. So that's provided in the tool, and there's a link there as well to how we use your private information. So B123 data is then pumped into a bunch of different tools, and this data can be used by the industry to help make informed decisions about where they move bees or what the Varroa situation looks like at the time. These maps are dynamically updated. Some are updated more regularly than others, but they are dynamically updated from the data that you enter. They're a great resource for beekeepers. You can go and look at these maps anytime you want. They're online, and it enables you to make decisions about where you put your beehives. If you need to move your beehives to a new location, you'll know whether or not people have been testing in the area, and you'll know whether or not there are Varroa mite present. You can see the New South Wales map on the lower left there. It indicates absence in blue and presence in red. That's the heat map that the DPI present at the moment. It's updated regularly with all the data that they get. On the right-hand side is the B123 data that goes into the Queensland mapping. This is from around Brisbane down to the border and summarises data from October last year to October this year. The map's interactive. When you go to it, you can click on those suburbs and you can drill down and see more data in those suburbs as to when tests were performed and when submissions were made. It is anonymised to the suburb layer, so you can't click in and find out who's been testing where, but you can see how many tests have been done per suburb. And as more absence data is added, a darker blue is shown on those suburb blocks. I'll hand back now to Kathy and let Kathy talk more about the videos across Queensland. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, so I'm Kathy. I work out of the Berrinba office, and I'm with Tonya and Keith covering the southeast corner of Queensland. So the two maps that I've got here, let's look at the one on the left first. We saw the bottom corner of this map when Rob introduced the Sentinel program along the border. That map on the left shows the density of registered beekeepers in Queensland. So each of those pink or purple dots is a RBE. So clearly there's a really high density of registered beekeepers in the southeast corner. We've got over 10,000 registered beekeepers in Queensland, as Joe mentioned at the start. We've got 10,350 registered, and the mix is about 730 commercial registrations and 9,600 recreational beekeepers registered. So we reckon there's about 75 or 80% of registered beekeepers are all located in this southeast corner. So the distribution of registered beekeepers is related to the allocated VDOs in the different regions throughout the state. So you can see on our other map on the right-hand side, where we've been located is relative to where the beekeepers are. So there's 4 full-time staff, Carla, Gavin, Tonya and Sarah, and then Keith and I are part-time, and the map there shows the regions that we're covering. Varroa Development Officers, we're part of the transition to management team, and we're here to help build industry capability in preparing for and managing Varroa. So we can work with both commercial and recreational beekeepers, and we're going to want to engage with individuals as well as groups and clubs. And our service is free. So that's the good news. The VDO service is completely free. we're going to be around for the next 12 months. So we want to really encourage beekeepers to reach out and make use of our services while we're here. There's 6 videos throughout Queensland. We're onboarding our manager as well. So there's 7 FTEs you can see on that map. All throughout the country, there's videos performing the similar roles. The 6 of us all have beekeeping experience, and you know, we're here to help out with education, awareness, hands-on support. We don't have a compliance role, so we don't do anything in terms of legalities, regulations, laws, and compliance. We have nothing to do with that stuff. This map of Queensland shows where our engagements are happening to date, so where we've been so far. So the video engagement map is just a visual representation of where we've had engagements in the field. So an engagement might be where we come out and do an apiary visit. We might do a presentation for a group of people. We've done the training workshops, which Sarah and I will tell you a little bit more about. An engagement might also be just a really good, robust phone call. It could be an email exchange. So, you know, whatever format of interaction would suit you and your work practices, we want to be able to sort of be flexible and engage with you. And the size of the circles there on that map just reflect the number of people that we've been interacting with. Our goal while we're here in our roles is to achieve good coverage of all the different regions in Queensland. So we're really actually just a phone call or an email away. So to get in touch with a video or to arrange for us to come out and do something with your group or with your apiary, you can email us at varroa@daf.queensland.gov.au. And we can come and provide support. If you can't make it to one of the training workshops, we're able to come and do some training similar to what you might find in the workshop or any other tailored topics that you might need. And post-workshop, after the workshops have been rolled out, we're then your go-to follow-up hands-on help. So the important message here is that peacetime is the best time to learn. So before Varroa hits us, we've got time to learn and develop our strategies, and our video team, we're really keen to help you guys with that. About the training workshops, some of you I know have already attended and some maybe are looking forward to coming to one soon. Nationwide, there's a lot of workshops being rolled out. Queensland have got 19 events in total. We've already run a few of those. If you'd like to register to attend any of these workshops, the link will be coming up in our chat, or you can find it all in one place at varroa.org.au on the website that Carla and Gavin were talking with us about earlier. So yeah, it's important to register to attend one of the workshops. We've run 4 so far in Queensland. Kingaroy was the first regional event held last Saturday. To date, we've had 80 to 90% attendance at these events, and we're finding that the tickets are booking out well in advance for the upcoming events. So please don't wait, get on and book yourself a seat. This slide here, we've just got a bit of a timeline showing the workshops that have been completed already and those that are coming up. So there are plenty of opportunities. We're trying to reach where beekeepers are located. So the workshops are situated in populated areas. November is going to be a busy month. I believe the Maroochydore and Ipswich workshops are already fully subscribed. So if you're, for any reason, unable to attend and you've got a ticket, you can give your ticket back so somebody else can get in. And yes, there's another QR code on screen. That one will take you directly to registering for a workshop. As I said before, all of this stuff is all together on the varroa.org.au website. Easy to find everything all in one place. There's going to be 19 total. We've already run 4 workshops. There'll be another handful of workshops later on, dates to be determined, more aimed towards commercial operations. And yeah, we're we'll be able to inform you more about those as the dates are set. So I'll now pass to Sarah, who will be able to chat a little bit more about the content of the workshops.
Thanks, Kathy. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Hickman, VDO for the Lockyer Valley and Darling Downs Southwest regions, and I'm based in Gatton. The workshops have a lot of valuable content, including impacts from Varroa, the importance of monitoring, and mite thresholds. It also incorporates integrated pest management, or IPM controls, such as cultural, mechanical, and lastly, chemical treatments, both synthetic and non-synthetic. And the workshops also cover best practice record keeping, and record books are given out to the participants. Alrighty, next slide. Here's a couple of images from the Surfers Paradise and Toowoomba event. The trainers have a table with equipment that's used in IPM methods, which include ventilated bottom boards, queen excluder cages, comb scratchers for the drone uncapping, chemical treatment examples, drone trapping frames, and also a few wash jars. And there's also a specimen jar with Varroa mite and alcohol that we keep safely guarded at all times. Alrighty, here are our 9 Queensland trainers. Up in North Queensland, we have Ben Olroyd, Blake Stewart, and Madeline Beekman. There's a few trainers spread out throughout southeast Queensland, which include Ron de Groot, Brad Peterson, Diana Lehman, Fiona Fernie, and Trevor Weatherhead. And we also have Tiffany Reid in the Darling Downs. Now, our trainers presenting at these workshops have an abundance of valuable knowledge and skills that they're bringing this to the workshops. They're all experienced beekeepers, and a few have also encountered Varroa overseas. And amongst the trainers, there are bee and bee pest scientists, academics, and also a former president of the QBA and executive director and chair of ARBIC. We also have an editor for the Encyclopedia of Animal Behaviour and chair of the Honeybee Pollination Panel of AgriFutures. And you can check out their biographies at varroa.org.au under Training Workshops Meet Your Trainers. The link will be in the chat. We've had some really good feedback from attendees where many of them have said how informative the workshops were. And there's been a number of beekeepers sign up for videos to visit them and do some in-field demonstrations. And we've also got, next slide. The beekeeping clubs have also signed up for videos to attend their field days and club meetings. And in this particular testimony, they've urged any beekeepers who couldn't attend a presentation to please register for some other workshops or reach out to a VDO as well. There are plans for this workshop content to be made available online. However, there's no set date at the moment, but we do encourage those who can attend a face-to-face event to do so. If you would like to register for the upcoming workshops, especially in the regional areas, the link is in the chat. Register now to secure your place. Alrighty, back to you, Rob.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. And thank you to all our presenters tonight, Sarah, Kathy, Keith, Tonya, Gav, and Carla. We really appreciate the time you've taken to introduce yourselves and show the support that's available to all beekeepers. And that's to all beekeepers, whether you got 1 hive or 1,000, basically. So I just got a couple of final slides before we'll move on to questions. So mainly want to cover on what Queensland beekeepers should be doing right now. So what we're really asking is what we've heard multiple times tonight is that we want beekeepers to be out there and we want them to be doing surveillance on their hives or monitoring. So at a bare minimum, that should be conducted every 16 weeks. But the message coming out of New South Wales is you've really got to monitor mites monthly. So that's what we're really encouraging. We want to make sure all Queensland beekeepers are registered biosecurity entities and they've got their records up to date online. Really important that Queensland beekeepers also maintain up-to-date records, and that's both for their hive health checks through B123 and also in terms of movement. And look, there's watch this space as well. There's going to be a time where all Queensland beekeepers are also going to have to learn about chemical record keeping as well as we start to navigate that space. So really important, all Queensland beekeepers are using B123, they're monitoring their hives. If you want to stay up to date on the latest situation, head to our DAF website. And also, as we've mentioned, subscribe to our e-alert online. And we'll go to our final slide, please. So really want to emphasise that the Vermeering program is here for the next 3 years. We are here to support industry. We've got our VDOs who are time limited, but we know this is going to be a slow burn. We know that we're in this for the long haul. You're not doing this all alone. We're all in this together. We really want to make sure that beekeepers understand that support services are available, and our program is going to be here for the next 3 years. And the main focus is that engagement. We want to provide up-to-date information on Varroa mite management, increase that community engagement and participation, and help to jointly develop management strategies. So we really want industry to have a seat at the table in developing the strategies that we're going to use to combat Varroa as it does become more widely spread into Queensland. So again, we want you to know that we are in this with you. We are working together, and you're not doing it alone. Now is the time to join your local networks, join the QBA, join your local beekeeping groups. Information is going to be really, really important in this next phase as Varroa is detected here in Queensland. So on that, we might move over to the question side of the evening. So I believe a lot of people have been entering questions into the chat, and hopefully some of those answers have been provided. But we might throw over to Tracy and Beck, and I'm happy to answer some questions as well.
It looks like all of the questions have been answered. It's just a question regarding sentinel hives along the border. And Nathan wants to know if it's possible to increase that network throughout the southeast.
Yeah, so that's definitely something we're open to. We're constantly looking at what is high risk and where we need to do further work with sentinel hives. We also really want to establish a network of beekeepers who are out there checking their hives and reporting regularly through B123. So we will definitely be out there doing sticky mat testing on regular intervals. And if beekeepers want to put forward a site or offer their hives up for testing, again, just contact us at Varroa at daf.qld.gov.au and we'll be in contact with you.
Okay, just a question about can people get the slides emailed to them? Oh, it's all right. Rebecca's just answered that one.
Yeah, and just to let you know too, we have mentioned that this is being recorded. We will be putting this up on our YouTube channel, and we will be sharing the link with you all in the future, and you will be able to come back and watch the presentation.
Anyone have any other questions? There's nothing else in the chat at this present time. We can just wait a little bit.
And look, if you don't have to have your questions here tonight, this is what your Varroa development officers are here for. If you can get along to a Varroa workshop, that is your first course of action to do that classroom style training. And then the videos are there to take you to that next step. So if anyone wants that next level of engagement, again, just contact us through the Varroa at DAF email address and we'll be in contact. Nathan, unfortunately, we can't have verbal questions tonight, but if you want to just chuck your question in the chat briefly, I'm happy to answer it, but we're not able to take verbal questions, unfortunately.
Steve Bliss has just asked, from New South Wales experience, what is the natural spread rate? So there's a few questions coming in now. Rob, you able to answer that one?
That's probably a question for New South Wales, and we can get back to you on that one, Steve. But look, the thing with Varroa is we know that it's spread through human-assisted movement. So natural spread, you're probably not looking at an excessive rate. You're probably looking at in the vicinity of 5 kilometres a year. But as soon as we start having movement, that's when it can jump from the border to Cairns in the blink of an eye. So natural spread, though, is not going to be our problem. It's going to be that the migratory nature of the beekeeping industry, and that's what's going to spread Varroa around. But I can get back to you on that one, Steve, and try and give you some data out of New South Wales on the actual spread rate.
Jennifer Berry, people are going to various sites to get treatments already. What is the plan around when and what will be used?
So really important in Queensland that we don't want people prophylactically treating for Varroa. That's just going to cause all sorts of problems with resistance. At the moment, Varroa isn't in Queensland, so we are not on the limited use permits for those chemicals, but we have got plans in place to switch over to those permits as soon as Queensland does become a combat jurisdiction. So we have been working in the background. We've run an EOI process with distributors, and we are ready to go when the time comes to swap over to that next phase of the program. But to do that, we need to know that Varroa is here. So it's no good beekeepers trying to acquire this chemical in Queensland if we don't know Varroa is here. We need people out there testing. When it's here, we'll move to that next stage.
Okay, Lois has a question. She said she has Langstroth hives, and can sticky mats be used in them?
Yeah, so there's two different ways of doing sticky mat testing. At the moment, without the widespread use of miticides, you can still put sticky mats in your hive and you can test for natural mite fall. It is a valid testing methodology that you can use. Once we start to have Varroa, you can definitely do this as well, that you can put your miticide in and you could be having your mats in there while you're doing your treatment period and be looking for the effectiveness of your chemical treatment. So all you'd have to do is depends on the way your box is set up, but you'd have to remove a couple of frames and put the mat in the bottom, and after a set period you would take that mat out. So being careful not to invert the mat and potentially tipping mites off it. Some people have, especially with flow hives, you've got some traps in there that you can potentially put the mat straight into. But yes, you can definitely put sticky mats in and start measuring for natural mite fall right now as a surveillance methodology.
Thanks, Rob. John wants to know, when did monitoring change from every 16 weeks to monthly?
Look, it's not as if it's an official change that you have to monitor monthly. If you're going by the code of practice, it still goes by 2 minimum testing rounds per year. You are going to see an update to the code of practice where we're living in a post-Varroa world. We know from New South Wales that 16 weeks, your whole world can change. You could be getting a negative test in 16 weeks, and at the end of that period, your hives are dead. The problem moving forward is going to be that reinfestation from your feral colonies that are out there in the wild. And you're going to, when you've got mites that are establishing in the wild population, you're going to need to monitor more than every 16 weeks.
Okay, Jennifer's got another question. How will websites or organisations be managed that sell these treatments?
Sorry, can you go that again?
How will websites or organisations be managed that sell these treatments, the chemical treatments?
Look, if you're trying to, if you're asking about staying up to date with what chemical treatments are available, your best source of information is the ARBIC website. That'll tell you what stage each chemical type is on the AVPMA permit application process. Your best source of information for day-to-day information is your varroa.org website. You will find stuff through our Varroa website as well. All these things will be updated regularly as we move into these stages where Varroa is detected in Queensland.
Okay, and Lois is just saying that her Langstroth aren't the standard, so I'm guessing she's asking whether she can still use those sticky mats in non-standard hives.
Yeah, without specifics, I'd like to say yes. You can cut your mats down if you've got an 8-framer or a 10-framer. You can. The beauty of the mat is you can just cut it to size. As long as you've got removable frame, which you should have in Queensland. You can remove some frames and get your mat in the bottom of that hive.
Yeah. Okay. Daryl, the Capalaba WS near me is full.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Will there be any more workshops organised for the Brisbane area?
Yep. So as we went through before, we are really heavily focusing on Southeast Queensland. A few of these big centres are selling out very, very quickly. We're hopeful to start to do another round of workshops in particular your Queensland Beekeeping Association. The 5 major branches are all mainly in the southeast corner of Queensland. We'll be having a workshop for each of those commercial branches in the new year, and we will try and work with the national program and making sure these venues are able to accommodate as many recreational beekeepers as possible, as well as the commercial beekeepers. So watch this space.
Okay, that seems to be all the questions at the moment. Anyone else have any more questions? Oh, here we are. Shane, what are the costs for the workshops?
Absolutely nothing. So if you sign up for the workshop, it is absolutely free for you to attend.
I'll even put lunch on for you.
They will. All right, we might move to the last slide, Kathy. So this is your last chance to scan the barcode. There's our email address, varroa@daff.qld.gov.au. If you've got any questions you didn't have time to ask tonight, just flick us an email there. That's also your best course of action for trying to make contact with one of our Varroa development officers. We really thank everyone for their time tonight. We'll be hosting regular webinars over the course of the transition and management. We will have more story to tell on the Varroa Mite Innovation and Resilience Initiative in the coming weeks and months. We'll have some announcements in the very near future of some of the big ticket items we're hoping to deliver here in Queensland.